I always tell people that I don't teach people how to compose music, that I teach people how to be composers. Being a composer means so much more than just composing music. There's other things that being a composer includes, right? So I like that idea of being a composer, of doing all the things that composers do, not just composing music. I like the idea of teaching people how to be composers, which includes, of course, primarily a focus on craft of composition. But there's a whole lot of other things that I do as a composer that are outside of just composing music. And why would I not also teach those things to students? One of my professors in graduate school once said, we were talking about commission fees. And I would say that Bob Morris, probably more than anyone, Bob Morris instilled at least the sense that there's a need for me to care about the business part of my composition career and pay attention to it, but only for the reason that I was deserving. And this, I'll never forget this. There was a meeting and we were talking about commission fees and we were talking about royalties and asking for, payment for things. We as like, as composers who write the kind of music that we do and with the kind of backgrounds that we have, we young composers oftentimes will feel like they're not deserving, or that this isn't the kind of music that makes money, so I'm not going to ask for money, or oh, I'm just happy to get the performance, you know. So we were talking about this, and Bob Morris was like citing different pop stars. I'll never forget. Like it was like, well, so and so made this album that generated $6 million for them that year. How much time and effort do you think they put into making that album to make $6 million from that album? Okay, and can compare that time and effort to the time and effort that you put into your recent orchestra piece that you wrote, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like your time and effort isn't as deserving as theirs? Because you're wrong if you don't, because it is deserving. And it was in a class actually, and he said, you all deserve to be compensated fairly for the music that you're making that no one else can make. And maybe not $6 million. Of course, maybe you deserve that, but that's not
Hmm.
the expectation. But don't feel like you should be hesitant to advocate for yourself when it comes to the business of your compositions. And so we didn't learn how to do those things in that meeting, but that was the time that I realized I should do those things. I need actually, we're all struggling. Gosh, I had no money at all, and I was working so hard. I was like, why am I working so hard? I have no money. I could have been getting money. I could have been at least to buy food. And so I started paying more attention. I didn't like dive deep into music business or something and run off and get a degree or something, but
Right.
I did start paying attention. I started reading more. Well, we had the internet by then, so I was able to look things up,
Yeah.
um, and I started benefiting from that actually, from that effort to pay more attention to the business part of what I was doing. I started benefiting from it. When I say benefiting, I mean the way that you think I do. Like, oh, I made some money, not a ton, but it was like that's possible. It's possible to do that. And when I first started teaching, I didn't think about teaching that stuff until I saw students struggling the way I was struggling financially, which was like right when I started teaching, by the way.
Yeah.
I realized like, oh, all these people are in the same position that I was in. I should tell them what I did. Not that it solves all your problems, but hey, I should make them aware of this thing and this grant and that thing over there and have them. I should make an assignment where they all write a grant proposal. That's a fake one, but then they know how to do it. And then, oh, a contract for a commission. Then they know what to include or not to include in it. They should know how to organize a consortium commission. They should know you know, how to report performances to a performance rights organization. They should know how to investigate performance rights organizations so they know which one to join and how to register the pieces. And the list goes on. Is like composers need to know how to do these things. why are we not teaching all of them how to do it? So I made a sequence of class assignments that are actually, aren't really assignments. They're real life things. And when my students do these assignments, they might make a little bit of money, nothing groundbreaking, but then they learn how to do it. If they want to go bigger with it later, they have the skills, they have the documents, they have the knowledge. And so when I said it was out of necessity, I really kind of meant that. Like, I needed that for myself as a composer, and then I recognized later, we all kind of need this, and I should be teaching this to people. It's part of composing. Otherwise, you might find yourself doing a ton of work, putting a lot of energy in to composing music, and struggle to survive. Like, literally, like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't spend time doing that anymore because I need to buy groceries. And to buy groceries, I need to go work at this other place or something. But, you know, maybe you can do that. Maybe you deserve to be able to do the thing that you're spending a lot of time and energy on. And there's ways to find support for it. This isn't me saying like it's easy to be a freelance composer. I'm not a freelance composer. I don't know if I could be a freelance composer and survive, like, in a comfortable way. I know how, I know like what the system is like. I'd have to teach some lessons and do some other things, but I want my students to know what the system's like as well, so they can navigate it and benefit from it when the time comes.
The other facet of this that I love about what you do and what I loved about being a student of yours was that it's not like this was all separate from the main thing. Like, this was all integrated into composition lessons. In addition to, like, for example, I know at a lot of places, like, orchestration class is its own separate thing.
Oh gosh,
But that
don't
was,
get me going on
but
that.
that was, yeah. But you integrated that as well. I mean, you're right. It wasn't, here's a bunch of spokes in the wheel, go take the class. It was,
when I came to Penn State, I'd already been at USF, and we got rid of the orchestration class. Paul Reller is also equally deserving of credit for getting rid of that orchestration class.
yeah.
But when I came to Penn State, the first thing I did was I canceled the orchestration. I said, there's not going to be an orchestration class at Penn State. No instrumentation orchestration class. Everyone's like, oh, what? Like, how are they going to learn? Like, you don't want the composer to learn? And my stance was instrumentation orchestration is way too important to have a 1 or 2 semester class on it. It's way too important for that. We're going to study orchestration and instrumentation for the undergrad level. We're going to study it for 8 semesters. They're going to have exams and quizzes every semester for 8 semesters on instrumentation and orchestration, to the point where they're going to be fluent in that information when they graduate. They're going to see the major benefits of knowing that information when they compose. They're not going to need to look things up in books. They're not going to take an orchestration class and tell me all the ways to say the instruments in German and get an A, and then tell me all the ranges sounding and written of all the orchestral instruments and get an A, and then go on to the next semester and not think about that stuff anymore. And then in 3 semesters have to write a piece for saxophone quartet, and they don't know the ranges of them or how they transpose, even though they got an A in the orchestration,
Yeah.
And so that was also part of the curriculum design. I mean, we're kind of talking about curriculum design here. And the curriculum that I am running has, 4 components to it. The composition component, which is what we're all doing. That's the main focus. That's what we want to get better at. There's the career building component, which is the things that you need to know about as a composer, how to disseminate your music, how to collect some income from it, all that stuff. The business stuff, so composing, the business stuff, which I just call career building, things that build your other parts of your career. Then there's a weekly reading, and those weekly readings include readings from orchestration books, learning instrument ranges and translations, and also readings of writings by composers. And we do a different book like every semester, every year, like In Her Own Words, Duckworth talking music, and there's a whole set of books they get through. And then there's the listening, and the listenings are listening to music and looking at scores by composers, usually the ones who you're reading about. So it's all kind of really integrated. It is a weekly. So when you have a lesson that week, all of that stuff is expected, and it is kind of like integrated and connected to each other. again, these are all things you just need to be a composer.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.